Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm just kind of getting some things double checked to make sure that everything is recording that like we want it to. Perfect. I'm Maggie O with Homeschool with Maggie O, your homeschool mentor. Welcome back to my curriculum review series where we're looking at individual homeschool curriculum options to help you determine what may be the best fit for your kiddo and your family. So we're continuing with math. Yesterday we looked at Math UC. Today we're going to be looking at Saxon Math, and they're different. They are different from one another. So I'll be kind of swinging back and forth so that you can kind of get a taste of some of these really high-end level very respected math curricula that is available to homeschoolers. So this review is going to look a little differently from some of the others in the series. Saxon, from a concept of when I take you into the website, Saxon does not currently have its own like standalone website like Matthew C did yesterday. The official publisher is HMH or Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, but its current Saxon website is geared much more towards schools and classroom use. So today I'm going to show you Saxon through Rainbow Resource. Let me share my screen real quick here. And I really encourage you that if you have not been to Rainbow Resource, that you really become familiar with this site. This has been around forever. It's very homeschool friendly. It's designed for homeschoolers primarily. And back in the day, I'm dating myself because I homeschooled for 20 years, as many of you know. And if you don't know me, that's how long I homeschooled two boys from kindergarten all the way through high school and getting them into college, different colleges. So this used to come in just like it started with a catalog that wasn't very thick and then it just got bigger. And of course, in today's digital world, now it's all online. And I love their online site. Just by looking, I have Saxon already pulled up, but you could go into this search bar and type in any kind of curriculum that you're interested in looking at. If you wanted like Shirley English, or if you wanted mastery textbooks, or the well-trained mind, or anything that you can think of, it's in here. They have everything. And it doesn't matter if it's all of your foreign languages are in here, any of your subjects are in here, and your supplemental resources are in here. And a lot of times, I'll be really honest with you, the pricing in here is a lot better than when you go direct. So I am a huge fan of Rainbow Resource. They supported me immensely during our homeschool years. So I'm always happy to give them a shout out. And it is a homeschool curriculum retailer. So I love that about them. And that kind of gives a backdrop about them. But as always, I'm not here to tell you, as we're talking about Saxon today, I'm not here to tell you that Saxon is the best math curriculum. Just like I didn't tell you yesterday that Math UC is the best math curriculum. There is no one best curriculum for every child. And I think by now, if you've been listening and following me enough, you know that that's my philosophy, and it's true. Instead, we're going to look at how Saxon teaches, how the program is structured, which learners may respond particularly well to it, which learners may struggle with this approach, and what homeschool families should know before purchasing it. So let's take a look here. Let's look on the screen. So here we are. We are at the Saxon site here, and this is on Rainbow Resource Center, like I said. And the first thing I want parents to understand about Saxon is its overall approach to teaching mathematics. Saxon is best known for what is called an incremental approach. I'm going to get a sip of water real quick. My throat is still dry. For those who've been following me, know I've been struggling on and off with laryngitis. Um, Instead of introducing a large mathematical concept all at once, Saxon introduces concepts in smaller pieces, which for a lot of kiddos makes it a very strong feature it a very strong curriculum to choose for multiple different styles of learners because of that. And we're going to talk about that. New learning is added incrementally over time. So you never lose sight of where you've been. You keep climbing. You're climbing a mountain, if you will. But another very important part of Saxon is what happens after a concept is introduced. It doesn't just simply disappear, to my point, and students continue practicing previously introduced concepts as they learn new ones. My personal opinion is that that makes this very strong because of that. If you have a struggling, I don't know whether you're a strong mathematical student or whether you're struggling, that's what makes Saxon such a strong choice and definitely worth putting on your research list. This is often referred to as a distributed or a cumulative practice. So, as you may also hear homeschool parents describe Saxon as a spiral math curriculum. Remember, we talked about whether it's mastery or spiral. And what that means is, in practical terms, is that your child is going to continue seeing concepts that are previously learned. So, immediately, this tells us something about the curriculum fit. If you have a child, like I said, who learns something during a chapter, does very well on it, but then seems to kind of completely forget it in 2 months, Saxon's continual review will definitely be a significant benefit for them. The student is repeatedly revisiting and practicing previously introduced skills. Now, it may look differently. That's not to say it's like you're just spitting out the same thing all the time and you think about boredom. No, Saxon does not handle it that way. However, if you do have a child who masters something quickly and becomes extremely frustrated when asked to practice it repeatedly, there's the potential for that to feel tedious. But speaking, because I do have personal knowledge of Saxon with both of my sons, again, I'm not saying it's the one, but I am saying it's definitely worth. I was a math struggler. I had a math struggler as a student. I have also an engineer level student. I have two kids that were completely opposite spectrums when it came to math. Both of them fit in. I also had one that had learning issues that specifically would love to show its ugly head in math. And this worked for him as well. So just let me, as a personal note, I'll put that out there. So we're going to review this. So let's show the placement here. And again, remember I said yesterday that any type of curricula that shows a placement ability, utilize that. Before you purchase any curriculum, use that. So let's just look at the K through 3. This is what it looks like if you open it. It's going to run you through. It'll give you some instructions. And I'm not going to go through this page by page, but this is what it looks like. This is what their placement looks like. And it will tell you where your kiddo falls in line, like what curriculum might best suit them. So that's that one. And then, so they have one for middle. So that's for math K through 3, middle school, algebra 1, algebra 2. And then I just want to try to make sure from my notes that I don't miss anything. And then here you have the homeschool edition, which you have like neutral content, spiral approach. So see, they're even giving you options. The high teacher involvement. It's telling you kind of this is what you'll find in that like K through 3. So I love this about it too, because it's pretty self-explanatory. It'll tell you you can shop Saxon Math Primary and go into this and find all kinds of goodies. You can find your teacher's edition, which I personally, because I would not consider myself, or at least back then, I definitely was not math strong. I loved their teacher edition. And then your kit, your student's kit. You have manipulatives for, again, if you have a visual learner or if you have a hands-on kinesthetic learner, this is fantastic for them. And then there's supplemental type kits, and it does go more from a grade. You'll see it here. It talks about grade level. So that's kind of the overview. Um, One thing that can initially confuse parents is the naming of some of the levels. Because you see here how they kind of slash it like 7 6 5 4 6 5. They kind of straddle years. And that makes it interesting because it doesn't put it hardcore in 1 year only, which like a traditional school would do those. Those numbers don't simply mean that your child should automatically use a particular book because they're in a particular grade. Saxon is skill based. So was Matthew C. And placement is important on both of those curriculum. We've looked at two now. So if you're moving into Saxon from another curriculum, I said the same thing yesterday. Make sure you're using the placements. Um, don't just think that, well, my child is in sixth grade, so I'm just going to buy the six in the title. That may be a mistake. They may be either more 5 4 or they could be more 7 6. We want to meet that child where they actually are academically. We don't want to just place them somewhere. So, but we also don't want them being, beyond their concepts and that they haven't mastered. We want to make sure that we're covering that. And because Saxon does build new concepts incrementally upon previous learning, appropriate placement is particularly important. So as we scroll down, here you have all of the kits, the different kits. You have the classroom edition. And I can't speak to that because I was never in a classroom. I mean, we did do co-ops with mathematics, but it's kind of a feature that they have here. You can look through that. You have your classroom high school. And again, like I said in the beginning, they don't just only give or have curriculum that's only homeschool specific. They do have classroom options. So let's look at the homeschool curriculum progress, which I believe we were already up here looking at. Yeah, I've already gone through this kind of with you. It really is self-explanatory. And this is another reason why I love Rainbow Resource because it's just easy. Um, and then it kind of tells you like Saxon Math grades 4 through 8. You could look at all of these. And then, like I said, this was grades K through 3. It tells you the features. Then you can shop. Here, if we shop for middle school math, it's going to give you a little bit more information here. It gives you the subcategories. It'll tell you in general, again, grade levels. And here it gives you general information on the subject and how you're going to see how much they are for the full kit. So when you see something like this for the full kit, here is the homeschool student edition. That alone is $63. And if you did the homeschool kit third edition, what comes with that is you have the textbook and the worksheets. You're going to have the solutions manual, which I do suggest you get. We always had that, and then their book. So it's pretty cool. And then they have some other supplemental stuff. Now they also have like digital type stuff that you can get with it as well. So there's just a whole bunch in here, but Rainbow Resource will have it all for you. Um, and then like we were already looking at the K through 3. I want to go back to that again. And we already talked about um, the K through 3 levels are much more parent directed and hands on than the older levels. I can also give some feedback on that as well. I did spend more chair time side by side with my learners when they were younger and we were using Saxon. We also use Singapore Math, and I'll bring that up later as well. And the lessons are scripted, which is a big help if you're not strong in math for the parent, if you have the teacher's manual. And for a brand new homeschool parent who is nervous about teaching math, that can be so reassuring. And I can, again, speak from my own point of view. It definitely was. It helped me a lot. And the program does give you structure and flow. And these younger manipulatives, they're great because again, if you had a visual learner or a hands-on learner, they'll be working with physical objects and hands-on material, and that helps them understand the concepts. And we did utilize that quite a bit when my guys were younger. So this immediately tells me that younger Saxon may have some strong potential for a child who benefits from that hands-on instruction. And I also want parents to understand the commitment, though. You are more hands-on in this program. Um, but the lessons are very guided. You're working through the activities with them. You are teaching. That's where I say get that teacher's manual. So if you're looking for something for your kindergartner or first grader, something that they can do independently while you work with another child, this would probably be the primary strength of Saxon K through 3. Um, Probably not, I'm saying, excuse me, it's not the strongest part of that. On the other hand, if you want a structured parent led math program that tells you exactly what to do, and I do mean exactly what to do, that part's very appealing about Saxon. And as you look through each of the levels, you'll see progression from K through 3, like if we're talking about the primary grades. And it's the same for the upper grades as well. If you go into the middle and into the high school, and you can get in all the way up through calculus. It is a K through 12 based curriculum. So I would, between the, again, you can do this, one other thing I want to note about this, especially in the younger grades. Let's see, I want to shop here because I want to show you. Um, I'm going to pull this up. And this is the K. I can still remember these. And of course, you have your manipulatives, but I really want to get into, let me see here. Where is the sample? They typically have, let's see, Saxon sample. Saxon math. Oops, excuse me, my microphone's in the way. Samples. Let's see if it'll pull it that way. And just always make sure that you're actually on your Saxon. I am not seeing that here. They also have a study kit, which could be kind of good too. Um, but I would really rather you, let me see if my notes, I thought I had a sample. Um, like the Matthew C had a sample that we looked at yesterday. Um, Let me just go through here real quick. I'm looking at something else on my other screen. Sorry. Um, I had quite a few notes on each of these. Okay, I'm not finding the sample. So let's go back to the main. We had placement. We had the placement. The placements, I will say, are quite helpful um, because they're going to give you an idea of what's going on in these. But I was trying to show an actual sample so that you could see the page. You saw the placement page, how it wasn't real colorful. That was my point in trying to find another sample page for you. And I'm just not putting my hands on it right now, but it is not a colorful math book. It's not. It's very simplistic. That was the point I'm trying to make. All the books are like that. It's math. It's not a coloring book. So I want to just make that, make sure that you're aware of that. And so now that we've kind of looked through these progressions, what makes Saxon different? The biggest defining features are the incremental instruction, and I can completely attest to that myself. Um, and it's helpful. It's continual cumulative review, repetition over time, not like you're doing the same thing every day, not that kind of repetition, but they're seeing the concepts come back into play in different levels of math. It's a structured and predictable format and a progression designed to continually build upon previously introduced skills. So let's talk about who may find the approach to be particularly a good fit. So the Maggie O curriculum fit snapshot, like we talked about yesterday, it's what I like to call it. I like to give you an overview. Um, Spiral and incremental learners, it's a strong fit for them. If your child benefits from learning concepts in smaller pieces and continuing to revisit them over time, Saxon is absolutely worth investigating. Students who forget previously learned math, strong potential fit. The cumulative review means that students are continually practicing older skills instead of just leaving them behind and going on to another chapter. It doesn't work that way. And I dare say the part that I came to know Saxon by a math professor at the University of Texas who started our co-op at the time when my kids were little. And he, of course, was an excellent teacher as well. He taught my kids math. And I would go sit in and learn from him as well. But it definitely is incremental. And I now, like I said, I have an adult child now who is in electrical engineering. Well, when you're in those kind of programs, the math is also incremental. It's not like you just magically disappear and that goes away. Math is like that. And so I kind of get weary of any curriculum that doesn't follow. I'm not saying Saxon is the best. Again, I'm not saying that. Don't misunderstand me. What I'm saying is any math curriculum that does not keep it in front of the student, meaning all concepts in a repetitive type, somehow, some way repetitive, I would question that because math in life is like that. We don't ever like stop learning to use fractions. We don't stop using them. We use them everywhere. Everywhere in our life, we use fractions, right? We're adding, we're subtracting, we're dividing, we're multiplying, we're dividing. We use the math and it's incremental. So that is one of the strongest features about Saxon. So students who need the repetition, absolutely. This is a potential fit for them. Repetition is one of the defining features of this program. So students who like routines and they like predictability, this is also a strong fit for that student as well. Saxon has a consistent, structured approach that some children find very comfortable. The visual learners, I would say it's moderate. Why am I saying that? Remember, we looked at the early grades, and yes, you have the manipulatives, but inside the book itself, it's not like a color magnet. It's not like that. And even the math you see that we looked at yesterday, it's the manipulatives when they're younger, and those are colorful, and that is great for a visual learner. But as they get older, that kind of goes away. Whereas in the math you see, those manipulatives kind of stayed around even into the older math styles. Remember, we talked about that? So there are visual components, but particularly in the younger, but Saxon is not primarily built around highly visual instruction. It's a math book. Your auditory learners, this will depend on the level and how you teach it. The younger levels are parent led, so auditory learners can certainly benefit from hearing the instruction. Older students may need additional video or parental instruction if they don't learn well primarily through just reading a textbook. So, like my older son who had the dyslexia, this that I would definitely say that's spot on for sure. And so we just talked through it a little bit more and he was fine. Or we would draw on a board. Those of you who have followed me long enough know I have a massive dry erase board in our old schoolroom that I had pre-cut. You can go to Home Depot and buy these massive dry erase boards. I don't know if y'all know that, and they'll cut it to whatever size. Well, it's still in our office till this day. My husband uses it when he's doing engineering projects. And I've used it for, I don't know, recipes when I need to quickly write something down. So we still use it, and it's been there for now 20 plus years. Your hands-on learners potentially strong in the K through 3 levels because of the manipulatives. And parent-led activities are an important part of the program. The older levels become increasingly textbook and written practice based. So just know that. Independent learners, lower, I would say lower in the elementary levels because the parents are guiding it so heavily, but potentially stronger as students become older and are able to work independently from the textbook. And I would definitely say for both of my boys, that was true for the most part. Additional video support may also increase independence for some families. So that can be a big help on here. And we want to make sure. And I do like it'll tell you here across the board like what it's good for. And even in this section, it's going to tell you the optional visual learning style. So, you can find supplements and that kind of thing, but they may still need supplements from a video if they're a real strong and even if they're independent but they need a little bit extra help if you're not able to be right there with them. The parental involvement is higher in the younger years, like I've mentioned, potentially lower as students become older and more independent. The unique learner considerations, let's talk about that for just a minute. For a child with ADHD, Saxon could go either way. It really does depend. And I wish I could be a little bit more definitive. A student who benefits from predictability, routine, and continual review, they're going to do really well. Another student with ADHD may find the repetition and longer written assignments difficult to sustain. Can you adapt it? Yeah, you could. So I would not simply say Saxon is good for ADHD. We have to look at the individual learner and also what you feel comfortable with on how you could adapt it. For a student who struggles with working memory or retaining previously learned procedures, I would definitely investigate Saxon review, cumulative review for that. That's going to be a little bit more helpful, I think. Um, the student isn't expected to learn something once and remember it forever without continued practice. For a student who struggles with math anxiety, I would look at what is causing the anxiety first and make sure you are really kind of clued in on that. If the anxiety comes from forgetting concepts and constantly feeling lost, well, the repetition may build their confidence. The anxiety will slowly go away. So there's that. But if the anxiety is coming from seeing a large number of problems on a page, Saxon's written workload may feel overwhelming unless you adapt it. So maybe you don't let them see the textbook. Instead, you have a printer and you only print half of it, or you copy paste those problems and do a quarter or a third of them on a piece of paper for them and print it out. That would be one way you could adapt it. Again, curriculum fit requires us to look deeper than a label. So the homeschool philosophy fit, when it comes to homeschool philosophy, I see Saxon as a particularly natural fit for traditional homeschool families. It is structured, it's sequential, it's very thorough, definitely has them well prepared in math, and it's academically focused. I can also see a strong potential fit for many classical homeschool families who value repetition, discipline, foundational skills, and a rigorous progression through math. Eclectic homeschool families can easily use Saxon as their math curriculum while taking completely different approaches in other subjects. And I would consider it more carefully for a strongly child led or unschooling family because this is structured curriculum with a planned sequence. And families who intentionally want very short lessons with minimal written work may find the older Saxon levels heavier than they prefer unless they're willing to adapt it, like I've mentioned earlier. So, who should put Saxon on their research list? I would take a closer look at Saxon if your child needs repetition to retain, if your child benefits from continual review, If your child likes structure and predictability, you want concepts introduced gradually. You want a traditional academically structured math program. You value strong foundational skills. Your child tends to forget concepts when they are not continually practiced, or you want a math sequence that can continue into advanced high school math. I would investigate more carefully if your child becomes extremely frustrated by repetition. Your child needs constant novelty and variety. Your child strongly prefers a highly visual or game based looking type curriculum. Your child becomes overwhelmed by larger written problem sets. You want math to be completely online. That's obviously not Saxon and automatically graded. That would not be a fit. This would not be a fit. Or you want a completely hands off curriculum, particularly in the younger grades. So, my final comparison, I would say, to compare this briefly with our first curriculum that we talked about yesterday with Math UC, based because this is where understanding curriculum fit becomes so important. Math you see is strongly mastery based. Remember, we talked about that? A student spends concentrated time developing particular math concepts. It also has a very strong visual and hands on component through its manipulative system. Saxon takes a very different approach, and that's why I wanted to bring it to you second. I've got several of them I'm going to bring to you during this math review. Today we're focused on Saxon. Saxon introduces concepts incrementally, and then they continually continue to bring it back to you. They bring it back to you. You keep doing something else and you still get the other at the same time. Neither approach is automatically better. The question is, though, how does your child learn? And if your child says, please let me stay at this concept until I really understand it, a mastery approach may feel more natural for them. And if a child says, I knew how to do this 3 months ago, but I've completely forgotten, Saxon's continual review may be exactly what that learner needs. That is where that is why we don't simply ask, what's the best math curriculum? We instead ask, what does this curriculum actually do? And does it match the child sitting right in front of me? So that's our look at Saxon. My biggest takeaway is this. If your child benefits from incremental instruction, repetition, routine, and continual review, Saxon deserves a place on your list. If your child becomes frustrated by repetition or needs a highly engaging, visual, technologically like driven approach, I would investigate carefully before committing. And please remember to use the placement resources that I showed you before purchasing in both of these curriculums. Saxon levels do not always correspond as simply to a traditional grade, so don't get caught that way. We assume that when we see numbers, our brain naturally goes there. So I'm a Maggie O with Homeschool with Maggie O, your homeschool mentor. I hope this review helped you better understand Saxon and whether its approach might be a good fit for your homeschool. Remember, there is no single best curriculum. The goal is finding the curriculum that best fits the child sitting right in front of you. I'll see you next time in our next math curriculum review. Happy homeschooling. Enjoyed our visit.